Hello again. So it's Terry McCarthy here with the first of these chunked up tutorials that I mentioned in my introduction. So I'm going to start with obviously the beginning, which is a generic explanation of what this individual oral actually is. Now, this was applicable both to literature and to language and literature. It's only when I get on to the criteria that we're going to be talking specifically about language and literature. And just to kind of mix this up a little bit, try and make it a little bit of fun, I thought that you should also just keep your eyes peeled to try to vary what is probably going to be somewhat boring, which is me talking to you in the screen. I thought I'd just fiddle my shelves a bit over here where there is a whole bunch of bric-a-brac. And so just look for the changing items, which may or may not be amusing, but at least will vary the screen for you. So what is the individual oral commentary and why are you doing it? Well, first of all, the individual oral is your IA for English. If you're standard level, it's your only IA. If you're higher level, it goes along with your higher level essay. And then IA, for those of us who don't know, because it's true that when you first begin the studying IB, there are lots of acronyms and terms that may feel somewhat overwhelming. So an IA is simply an internal assessment, and that means that your assessment is marked by your teacher. And then it is sent to the IB, to somebody like me, to moderate those marks. And what that means is that we simply check. We check the marks against each criteria, and we, usually agree with your teacher, sometimes even raise your grade. Unfortunately, just occasionally pull the grades down. So the IO, individual oral, which I'm going to simply say IO from now on, is a prepared exam in which you talk for 10 minutes using a sheet in front of you with 10 bullet points on, and then you are asked questions, or there is a follow-up question time for 5 more minutes. So in total, it's 15 minutes, and you have a lot of time to prepare for it, and you go in with 10 bullet points, which we will explore in more detail in another session, which means that you have a plan in front of you, you know what you want to say. Of course, it doesn't stop it being somewhat stressful, but the plan is there to help you, so if you feel that you're stumbling, you stop and you can refer to that. So for a standard level student, your IO is worth 30%, which means that the other 70% of your mark will come from external exams, paper 1 and paper 2. And for a higher level student, your oral is worth 20% because you also have a further percentage which comes from your higher level essay. Fortunately, for those of you who are watching this now, these percentages stay as they are. However, for your predecessors who went through the course during COVID, the weighting of the oral became much heavier, and so it became far more important. So I think it's maybe significant that you reflect on the fact that you will not be so reliant on achieving top grades in your oral. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's not important, because if we can go into our exam knowing that we've got a 7 in our oral, then that will make us feel much more confident about achieving that overall 7 through the paper 1 and the paper 2. So in this 10-minute presentation, which is followed by a 5-minute follow-up session, you are asked to explore a global issue of your choice through a combination of one literature and one non-literature text, okay? It's very important that during those 10 minutes, your conversation is balanced. So you equally weigh the time that you talk about your literature text with the amount of time you give to your non-literature text or your non-lit text. And within that, you also give equal time to the wider body of work. So that means, for example, if you are taking an extract from, I don't know, Fitzgerald's Great Gatsby, then you spend not necessarily equal amounts of times, but you spend significant amount of time on the extract and also then go on to talk about other moments in the work. And then if you're combining it with, I don't know, a Banksy poster, image rather, then you spend significant amount of time talking about your chosen Banksy image, but you also relate that to his wider body of work, i.e. other works by Banksy. So we have to find an overall balance, and that's quite difficult. That's criteria C, and that becomes a struggle, but I am going to talk about the structure of your oral when I move on to 6. So I've said so a lot. Your global issue, or actually field of inquiry, as the IB refer to them, there are 5 fields of inquiry. And from those 5 fields of inquiry, you have to generate or develop rather a global issue. So the 5 fields of inquiry are culture, identity, and community. Okay, that's basically exploring issues of race, class, ethnicity, family, looking at how they are presented and commented on through your 2 works. Belief, values, and education. And quite often works may explore perhaps tensions that exist between an individual and society, and the beliefs and the values that they're presented with. And that's, it's quite a recurrent theme. We can see that being expressed in many works of literature and non-literature. Politics, power, and justice. This is often very popular field of inquiry. Here we're looking at things like the limitations of the justice system, the hypocrisy of political systems, the hierarchical systems that exist within societies as a result of systems of politics or power, the injustices there, the injustice within the justice system itself. These are often recurrent conversations in individual orals. Art, creativity, and imagination. So you're being asked to explore through your 2 chosen works the way in which art or our imaginations, creativity may challenge perspectives or develop new perspectives within a society and an individual, or the way that perception that's given to somebody through the creativity that they have or through an art form may create tension between that individual and society. And then last but certainly not least, science, technology, and the environment. And here we're looking, fundamentally at the relationship between human beings or humanity and the environment in which we live. It may be that one work is exploring what seems to be the fundamental power of the environment and man's ultimate fragility in that relationship, or it may be somebody is exploring the way in which man is corrupting and damaging his own environment. The perspectives of your 2 writers or your 2 chosen texts do not have to marry. They simply have to be presenting the same global issue. So those were your 5 fields of inquiry. And I'll say them again: culture, identity, and community, belief, values, and education, politics, power, and justice, art, creativity, and imagination, science, technology, and the environment. And from those 5, you are asked to create a global issue. So quite often, and I think it's quite a smart way to go at it, teachers are asking students to choose or link the global issue to a specific word in the field of inquiry. Now that sounds confusing, but it's not. What I mean is, say I have chosen to explore, what should we say? I've chosen to explore the idea of identity, and specifically the way in which certain minority communities' identities are misrepresented, then perhaps I would be looking at, I don't know, I might be taking some works from Black Lives Matter movement as my non-lit campaign, and perhaps I would use a work like The Hate U Give by Angie Thompson to look at that through my literary text. I would then say that, good afternoon, I'm here today to explore the field of inquiry of culture, identity, and community. I'm particularly interested in exploring the idea of community, and I shall do this through my literary text, The Hate U Give, and through a campaign from the Black Lives Matter organization. So I've zoned in on one keyword, and I've then brought that out to bring in my global issue. So I think that's more than enough really about the overall oral. We're going to move on in a second to look at the criteria in the next little installment that I'm going to give you. I am going to also accompany this with a PowerPoint, which just quickly goes over those fields of inquiry and the kind of themes, ideas, connections you could make, as well as a little worksheet, which is just asking you to start brainstorming and making connections. So if you look below, you should see the attachments. And I would suggest that before you watch the next installment, you take, 20 minutes, half an hour, and you have a little go at my tasks, which are asking you to start to think about formulating a global issue and really just getting used to the idea of those fields of inquiry. And you read back through the PowerPoint with the fields of inquiry. So I hope this has been helpful and not too overwhelming. And I shall see you in the next one, where we will talk specifically about the language and literature IO criteria. So bye for now.